So the NFL season is officially returning this week, and with that, the Philadelphia Eagles are getting ready to play their first game on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. There's a lot of questions surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles this season, with a new coaching staff, a new starting quarterback for this season, and just a lot of new players and expectations for this team. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about expectations and my predictions for the Philadelphia Eagles in this 2021 NFL season. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So before I talk about anybody else, the first person I want to talk about is Jalen Hurts. In my opinion, the way this season goes for the Philadelphia Eagles depends on how Jalen Hurts plays as the QB1 on this team. So a lot of the people in the national media and just covering the NFL and sports fans in general seem to have this idea stuck in their brain that Jalen Hurts is just automatically not going to live up to being a starting quarterback in this league, not going to be a very good option for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going to move on from him just next season, considering they do have two first-round picks, which could turn into three. And they're not really giving Jalen Hurts a chance to prove himself. So that's what this season is for Jalen Hurts. If he plays well, this will be his starting position to keep for years to come, and he will be the Eagles' new franchise quarterback after Carson Wentz was traded to the Colts this offseason. But I don't understand the idea that Jalen Hurts isn't going to be able to at least be a decent player. People seem to think he's going to be a terrible quarterback this season, and I don't understand that at all. In my opinion, I don't think Jalen Hurts played great last season for those 4 games that he did start, but I think he played pretty well considering the circumstances. The team around him was bad. The offensive line was in shambles. It was completely injured. The pass catchers were just not there, and he was just thrown into the fire, and I think he did pretty well. He won a game against, at the time, the league's #1 defense in the New Orleans Saints. He went head-to-head with Kyler Murray against the Arizona Cardinals. His one bad game, in my opinion, was against the Dallas Cowboys, where I think he threw a couple interceptions in that game. But then against the Washington football team before he was taken out at halftime, I thought he played very well in that game. And he put up some impressive stats if you go back and check. I think he averaged over 250 yards passing and 70 yards rushing for those first 3 games that he played all the way through. And those are some pretty impressive numbers. And when you take into account that he has had the entire offseason as the QB1, this is not a COVID year like last year was, and it's just a normal offseason, and he really has that experience now under his belt. And then what else you have to consider is he has all the intangibles. His leadership is great. You can tell by, first of all, he was voted a captain by his teammates, which shows you what they think of him. They really do believe in him, and they see him as a leader in the locker room. He's a humble guy. He has leadership ability, and he went to some really good colleges. He went to Alabama and then Oklahoma, and he had success there as well. So I really expect Jalen Hurts to have a good year this year, and if he plays bad, it's going to be okay because we have some first-round picks next year. But I do not see that happening. I think Jalen Hurts is going to come out and have a great year and prove himself to be the Eagles' future franchise quarterback and secure that starting position for years to come. And I think that him playing well will definitely take the team's ceiling to a whole new height. So now I want to talk about the new coaching staff that the Eagles have brought in just very briefly. So obviously we hired Nick Sirianni as the head coach after firing Doug Peterson. And then brought in Shane Steichen as offensive coordinator and Jonathan Gannon as the defensive coordinator. And I'm optimistic about this group of coaches. From what I've heard from Nick Sirianni, I like what I've heard. He's an offensive-minded guy. First of all, the Eagles' wide receivers over the past few years have been just terrible. And he was a previous wide receivers coach with the Chargers and then the offensive coordinator with the Colts. So I really do expect to see an improvement from a wide receiver standpoint, and also bring some of that Frank Reich offense that we saw during the 2017 year when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, because he's coming from the Colts where Frank Reich is the head coach. But my favorite thing about Nick Sirianni is that he preaches that you cater your offense to the personnel you have, and you always have to agree with your players and have relationships with them. I think that that's really helpful because, in my opinion, last year Doug Peterson didn't really cater the offense to the team. I think he passed the ball way too much with a injured offensive line, and Carson Wentz, who was not playing well, and he did not run the ball enough with Miles Sanders, who is still one of the best backs in our league, and he's being slept on as well. But I think that that was one of my biggest issues with Doug Peterson last year, calling plays. But Nick Sirianni, in my opinion, won't do that because he's preached, run the offense how your personnel will go. And I could keep naming other things that I feel Doug could have done better in terms of doing that. But I'm confident Nick Sirianni is going to come in here, and I'm just optimistic about what he can do as a young head coach in this league. So let's talk about some offseason acquisitions that the Eagles made, starting with number 1, Devonta Smith, drafting him with the 10th overall pick, trading up ahead of the Giants with the Dallas Cowboys to make that selection. I'm really excited about Devonta Smith coming in and being the number 1 wide receiver on this team. I think he's going to really help Jalen Hurts out, especially since they did play together for a little bit at Alabama. And Devonta Smith, he obviously won the Heisman at Alabama, all-time school record in receiving yards, 1,800 yards this past season for him, and he was just insane the entire year. Devonta Smith, I expect to come in and have a really big impact, have at the very least, a 1,000 yards a season in his rookie year, assuming he stays healthy. And look for him to have a big impact this season, be that number 1 wide receiver. Him running routes is just insane. He was consistently open in the one preseason game that he played. And I'm just really excited to see what he can do on the field. Next guy I want to talk about, Ryan Kerrigan. That was an interesting signing to me when they did it. I thought it was weird because he had been playing for the Redskins / Washington football team his entire career. He's their all-time leader in sacks. And now he's coming over to their division rival, Philadelphia Eagles, to play more of a bench edge rusher role. He can kind of be like that Chris Long that we had when we won the Super Bowl and the year after that. And I think it was a good signing, and he could come in and contribute probably around like maybe 5, maybe 6 sacks, probably not, but like 4 or 5 sacks would be good for him, and he can rush the passer, and he's still definitely got something left in the tank. So I think that was a good signing. Another guy that we did sign in the offseason, Anthony Harris. I thought that was a really good signing as well because it's like a 1-year deal, team-friendly, that if he plays well, we can re-sign him. But he led the interceptions, I believe, last year. Was it last year? It was one of the years. I can't remember which year it was. But he's been a really good safety through his years with the Minnesota Vikings. He's played under the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, before, so I think that's a positive too. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He looked good for those couple snaps he played in the preseason, but it's preseason. You don't really know what we're going to get until we get into actual regular season games. But I am excited to see what he can do. He's been really good in coverage and I believe tackling as well. And then another one I want to talk about is Steven Nelson. Our secondary over the past few years has been really questionable. We now have a number 1 quarterback with Darius Slay, obviously coming in last year being his first year. But now we actually have a legit number 2 corner across from him, so they can't just target him away from Darius Slay. But I expect Steven Nelson to come in and just be a good in coverage corner. And a corner that can tackle too. He played really well for Pittsburgh and Kansas City the past few years of his career, and I'm excited to see what he can do for the Eagles. So my official predictions for this Eagles team, it really depends on a lot of things, but me basically coming in and not knowing what this team is going to be at all, not knowing how good the quarterback's going to play or what he can be or anything about the coaching staff or how this defense can play under Jonathan Gannon, offense under Shane Steichen, whatever, I'm going to come out and say that I think the Philadelphia Eagles will win this division with a record of 9-8. This is because of a lot of things I just mentioned, that I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a good year. The offense can have a good year as long as that line stays healthy, and the defense can also be pretty solid. But I'm thinking that this is still a young team. I don't expect them to be a Super Bowl contender this season. But the reason I think they can be a playoff team at 9-8 and win the division is because, number 1, they do have the easiest schedule in the entire league. I think the front half is a little bit more difficult than the back half, which at the end of the season, they just have all those division games, which I always like because depending on how close the division is, that really decides who makes the playoffs and who goes home. But I do think that since this is the NFC East, still being probably the worst division in the entire league, I think the Eagles have a chance of winning this division with a record of 9-8. And if they can get to that, which I think is very possible if you look at their schedule, I think that that's a real possibility. It's a very doable thing if Jalen Hurts plays up to what I think he can play up to, if the offensive line stays healthy, if other players play well and everyone stays healthy, and Nick Sirianni turns out to be a good, solid coach. I have this Eagles team with a record of 9 wins, 8 losses, and a trip to the playoffs, probably losing in the first round, but it's a good step to build on because at this point, after that, we'll have 2 first-round picks, potentially 3 in next year's draft, and a bright future ahead of us. Let me know what you guys think the Eagles are going to do this season in the comments down below. Subscribe for more videos just like this one. Like the video, help push this video out to other people. And that's all I got for this video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.